Bodo Weber. He's a senior associate of the Democratization Policy Council. Mr. Weber, thank you very much for being with us here on TRT World. So as Simon was saying then, the machinations begin to try and build this coalition. Is it just a case really of offering the Greens and the Free Democrats plum cabinet positions for Mr. Scholz to get them into his coalition?
Well, not really. I mean, at the moment, it looks almost like the momentum is with the two smaller parties, FDP, the Liberals, and the Greens. We've seen something very unusual last night, that the Greens reaching out to the Liberals and the Liberals basically accepting. So there might be first coalition talks between the potential smaller coalition partners, whoever that be, for the Social Democrats or even for the CDU. And that has a prehistory. I mean, it has two issues. One issue is that among all the four parties that can potentially form a coalition government, the Greens and the Liberals are furthest away programmatically. And the second issue is we have this experience of the 2017 negotiations when CDU negotiated with the Liberals and the Greens over coalition government. That took months, and it ended up with a surprise out of the nowhere U-turn of the Liberals checking out of these coalition negotiations, and the Liberals direly paid for this. So there is a certain lesson learned element in this situation, but at the same time, this brings us to a very unusual situation here after the elections. First, that we probably will for the first time have a coalition formed by three parties, and second is that the decisive moves might be made by the two smaller parties.
So that does leave open in your answer there, Bodo Weber, the possibility that the CDU could then end up with the chancellorship.
Absolutely. I mean, but it basically leaves a situation where one has the impression since last night that it will be the two small parties and their attempt to find agreement, to find compromises on a programmatic level more than on a cabinet post levels, to find some agreement, and then that they might be the kingmakers, and that the very tiny lead and victory that Mr. Scholz and his party, unusual by itself, given the history and the permanent decline of the party for 12 years, being in grand coalition with Chancellor Merkel, ending might not at the end be the decisive issue that will determine who will be the next chancellor.
So finally then, Bodo, I do wonder how are Germans reacting then this morning to this sort of level of uncertainty? I mean, as you portray it, there could be either the Jamaica coalition with the CDU, the Greens and the Liberals, or the traffic light coalition with the SPD. How do Germans feel about that uncertainty?
Well, I guess Germans feel a bit confused, citizens, and excited at the same time. One has to say that these were elections, as your colleague correspondent already portrayed it, that were very unusual. They were very open compared to previous decades of elections, very unpredictable outcome. At the end, the result was very much according to the polls of the past few weeks. We had a very boring, compared to this outcome and upcoming coalition negotiation, election campaign that was more or less defined by all candidates trying to portray themselves as the successor and the hero of Ms. Merkel in terms of being the guarantor for stability and continuity and prosperity. So in a way, you know, we have moved last night from an election campaign that was more boring than exciting to a very exciting outcome of the election, and which will be now succeeded by very exciting weeks and months of coalition negotiation.
Yeah, it could be an exciting few months. I do appreciate your analysis there, Bodo Weber from the Democratization Policy Council. Thanks for your time.